You ever look around at your life and think, I should feel grateful, but I feel nothing? You've got what others call success. You have the house, the job, maybe even the body, and yet you still feel like a ghost in your own life. You're disconnected. You're resentful. You're numb. You're chasing goals, sure, but you're losing touch with everything and everyone that actually matters. And for a lot of high performers, that moment of clarity comes way too late. When the marriage is hanging by a thread, when your kids stop trying to connect, when the noise in your head finally drowns out the joy. But it doesn't have to be that way. And if that's where you are at right now, this is your wake up call. Because in today's episode, we're going to talk about the cost of unchecked ambition. And we're going to get into what it actually looks like to be successful without losing your family, your health, or your soul in the process. So if you feel like you're towing the line between drive and disconnection, then this one is just for you. This is the High Performance Human Podcast, where high achievers come to master themselves, not just their success. I'm Creighton Bertrand, a certified high performance coach and entrepreneur obsessed with mastering the mind, body, and emotions to reach the next level in every area of life. My mission is to give you real, actionable tools to rewire your habits and mindset for the life that you know that you were meant for. If you're done settling for good enough and ready for real transformation, you, my friend, are in the right place. Now, let's get to work. All right, welcome back or welcome to the High Performance Human Podcast. And I want to give a huge shout out to the returning listeners and especially those of you who've reached out with reviews and DMs. I mean, I can't tell you enough how much that means to me. And in fact, here's one that really hit me the other day. It said, this podcast has some of the best perspectives. It doesn't just explain the psychology behind why we do what we do. It gives you actual tools. Creighton brings real value every single time. And I want to thank you for that. I share this because when I sit down to record episodes like this one, it's so empowering to know that it's hitting someone who actually needs it. And I'm hoping that that's what I can do today, is to get into something that I wish I would have known and someone would have warned me about so many years ago. And that's exactly where the story goes. You see, it was a late weekend night. The house was quiet. The only light was from the soft glow of the lamp next to our bed. The white blankets were folded down neatly like something out of a hotel. It looked absolutely perfect. And it actually almost felt sterile and untouched. And I was sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling, being numb, not really looking at anything, but really avoiding everything. And that's when I heard the door open. And Fernanda walked in. She was calm, she was certain, and she stood at the foot of the bed, and she said these words that I'll never forget. I found a place. I'm moving out. And I just sat there. No reaction, no anger, no sadness, because deep down, I knew. I've been checked out for years, mentally, emotionally. I just hadn't physically left. And if I'm being honest, I was actually relieved that someone finally had the courage to say it and call me out. Because I told myself that I was working hard for the family. I was growing my real estate portfolio. I was moving up as an engineer. I was pushing for more. But the truth, I was building a life that didn't include them. I was so locked into the next milestone, the next goal, the next version of success, that I didn't notice the distance growing between me and the people I said mattered the most. I didn't realize I was leaving my actual life behind in the process. And here's the thing most people don't realize about us high achievers. We don't check out with Netflix and junk food. We check out with goals, with hustle, with more discipline. Because on the outside, it looks like we're winning. We're productive, we're responsible, we're focused, just like the bed that I was sitting on, perfectly made, but totally untouched. And inside, we're running on fumes. We're disconnected from the people we love, and even more disconnected from ourselves. And I've seen this in so many of the men that I coach. They come to me when the cracks are showing, when the kids are distant and the marriage is cold, and they're wondering how they even got there. And the truth is, they didn't fall. They drifted, one goal at a time, one unspoken resentment at a time, one I'm too busy at a time. And this leaves them trying to pick up the pieces to make things right, hoping that it's not too late for them and their family. So, what shifted for me? Well, it wasn't some profound breakthrough. It was actually one thought. And I'll be honest, it was a selfish one. It was the thought of what would it be like to not be able to tuck my kids in every single night. No story, no hug, no snuggles, no quiet moments on the edge of their bed where they tell you the things that they didn't say during the day. And that right there, that crushed me. I didn't have the courage to fight for my marriage, or for me, really, at that point. But I would fight tooth and nail for them. And that's what really got me off the mat. That's what pulled me back into my life. That's what gave me just enough energy to begin the real work. And here's what I've learned coaching fathers, husbands, other high performers. It's easy for us to suffer silently for ourselves, but we'll fight like hell for the people that we love. And that's exactly what I did. And somewhere along the way, I finally found the strength to fight for myself too. But here's the deal. You can't rebuild something on a totally broken foundation. So I had to get to the root. I had to ask the hard question. Why was I so disconnected in the first place? And the truth was actually brutal. It turned out that I didn't love who I had become. And actually, I found out that I didn't even know who I was anymore because I spent so many years trying to prove that I was strong enough, that I was smart enough, that I was successful enough, that I never stopped to ask why I needed to prove any of it at all. Or even ask myself who I was even trying to convince. Was it my parents? Was it society? Was it myself? And honestly, I didn't even know the answer. All I knew was that underneath all of it is I believed I wasn't enough. And nothing I achieved ever seemed to change that. And here's the dangerous part that I don't think we notice. The way that you see yourself becomes the lens that you use to see everyone else. Because I felt like I wasn't enough, I started seeing everyone else through the same filter. I picked people apart. I focused on their flaws. I judged, which only pushed me further away from the people that I actually loved. Because let's be real, if you can't accept yourself, how can you truly accept anyone else? And that was me. On the outside, I looked successful, disciplined, driven. But on the inside, I was just a stoic, exhausted shell of a man. I was performing instead of connecting. I was numbing instead of feeling. I was surviving instead of living. So, what do you do when the version of yourself that you've built isn't someone that you want to be anymore? Well, you don't just add new habits on top of the pain. You can try. But what you really need to do is you need to stop. You need to dig. And for me, that meant doing one of the hardest things that I had avoided my whole life. And that was slowing down, not grinding harder, not setting bigger goals, but sitting in the silence and finally facing the stuff that I had buried under all my achievements. And I started asking questions that hurt to answer. Questions like, why do I feel this way? What am I running from? Is this story I've been living even true anymore? And more importantly, do I want to keep living by it? Now, some people call this the shadow work or inner child healing, but for me, it was just being honest. And here's the raw truth, I wasn't only doing it for me, because if I am being honest, I was willing to stay miserable because I was used to it. It was comfortable, it was familiar. But what I refused is I refused to pass that misery onto my daughter. And that's when I made a commitment. I made a commitment that she would never have to wonder if she was enough. She would never have to feel what I felt growing up. And Fernanda, she deserved the husband I promised to be, not the ghost that I had become. So I did the work. I wrote down the kind of man that I wanted to be, how I wanted to show up, how I wanted to react, how I wanted to love. Then I practiced every single day. And I'm not going to lie, it was brutal. And there's no dopamine hit in emotional rehab, unfortunately. It's just pure discipline and rep after rep and showing up even when you feel like a fraud. But that's what it took to become a man I could finally respect. Not for what I achieved, but for who I chose to be. And from there, Fernanda and I made one simple but powerful change. Her and I protected our Friday nights. No calls, no reschedules, no excuses. It's not just date night, but it became our sacred space for our relationship. And it didn't matter what came up. That time was allocated for us. And our friends even knew, our family knew. We weren't going out to impress anyone. We were just sitting down face to face every single week. And I wish I could say it was romantic and amazing, but it really wasn't. For the first 6 months, it was pretty awkward. It was like talking to a stranger that you used to know. But slowly, week after week, we started to see each other again. And honestly, it probably took about a year. And we didn't just fall back into love. We chose each other again. And this time with open eyes and open hearts. And that is the key that most people miss. They think that connection is just about a feeling. But I argue and I say connection is about discipline. It's about protecting what matters. It's about choosing it every single day. And it's about doing the things that matter the most to you on purpose. So here's my challenge for you. If you find yourself numb and disconnected, pushing yourself, but you don't know if you like where you're at or who's around you, I challenge you to look at your calendar this week. Not your to-do list, not your business goals, but your actual calendar. And find out where is your intentional time for the people that you say matters the most to you. Because if it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist. And you're just lying to yourself. So pick one relationship. Is it with your spouse? Is it with your kids? Is it with your best friend? And schedule 30 minutes with them this week. No phone, no TV, no distraction, just presence. And if and when that feels awkward or uncomfortable, good. That means you're finally waking up. And you don't have to trade your ambition for connection, but you do have to be honest about what are your priorities. And if this episode hit home for you, share it with someone who's grinding so hard because they might be missing the people who matter the most. And maybe that's you. All right, now it's your turn. Go and get to work.